You are listening to the 90 Days Later podcast with Anna Charles, episode 205. Welcome to the 90 Days Later podcast, where we talk about what really happens when you take a break from drinking. And it turns out to be the best thing you've ever done. I'm Anna, coach to high achievers who are done waking up with regret and ready to feel in control around alcohol. If you've ever wondered what your life could look like with less wine and more you, you're in the right place. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. All right, today, my topic is when you want to drink, but you don't know why. All right, so I am referring to those moments when you just suddenly want to drink. But maybe you just can't explain it, right? I hear this all the time. You might say, I'm not particularly stressed. I'm not in a celebratory mood. I'm not even particularly tired or bored, right? You're not having any of those, what we might call trigger feelings. And yet there's a pull. You're feeling a pull to a drink. Maybe just a vague sense that something's missing. And you do as I suggest, which is you ask yourself why. And maybe your brain comes back with, I don't know. Now, here's the thing. I don't know, those three little words, or four, if you count the not as a separate word. Bit of a grammar freak here. I don't know, right? It sounds fairly harmless because at least you're not saying mean things to yourself, right? At least you're not saying, well, because you're a screw-up, because you always have, because you're stuck in the habit, because it's Monday, because, right? But when it comes to drinking less, those three words, I don't know, that can become one of the biggest thought traps that you can fall into. That's right, it's a trap. Because I don't know is where curiosity goes to die. It kind of stops all inquisition, right? It's your brain's way of saying, let's not look so closely right now, right? Let's just get on with it. It's a way of saying, let's just get on and have that drink thing. You know, that's what we like to do. Now, let's talk about really what's going on when you're saying, I don't know to yourself. How are you feeling? Confused. Yes. Confusion feels uncomfortable. For me, confusion is one of those feelings that I would gladly run a mile from. But knowing this, it means I have to get myself to choose to gladly run a mile towards it. Because confusion is a bit like fog, right? Just imagine when you wake up in the morning, you get out to the car and you're going to drive and it's foggy. You just can't see, right? You're looking for things you can grip onto, to landmarks and things, but there's nothing to see, right? You can't quite see what's in front of you. And in that scenario, you may want to freeze. It's like, oh, well, I don't know. You know, does this feel safe, right? We can think that for a car. I remember coming out of a concert. We went to see Joan Armour Trading, actually, in this really small hall in a really small town called Frome in Somerset. And we came out, I guess it was 10:30. Pea soup fog. I mean, really couldn't see. And those are narrow roads there. I used to live around there, haven't been there for years. So it was really quite, scary. And I could feel all my confusion, all my wanting to keep safe coming up and not leave now and all the rest of it. So that's what's happening to a different extent, but it's still what's happening when we sit saying, I don't know why I want to drink, right? You feel you can also get into overwhelm. I mean, when confusion meets overwhelm, which it often does, and again, that's one of the things that I deal with on the regular, and I know how to coach myself through it, but confusion and overwhelm, they feed off each other, right? They're kind of like the terrible twins. You're going to feel mentally crowded, right? Your brain is going to be saying, I don't know. And then you're going to feel emotionally uncertain because it's like, oh, and now this feels terrible on top of it. And this is the moment when the brain reaches for something familiar. It wants to get us out of confusion, lickety split. So maybe you reach for your phone, maybe it's Netflix, maybe it's wine, even when you're saying, I don't really want to drink, but maybe that's where you go. Because we don't want to feel this confusion, right? All of these things are distraction, are ways to step out of the discomfort of not knowing. That is all that's happening. I want you to see that. Because here's the key insight. Confusion is not, it's just a feeling, but it's also a cover, right? It's your brain's polite way of saying, I don't want to make a decision right now, right? That feels awkward, that feels uncomfortable. So let's just stay in confused, because if we're confused, then that means we don't know what we're doing, right? And why does this happen? Because decisions take energy. And at the end of a long day, energy feels in short supply. So your brain is going to default to the easiest thing, the most efficient thing, the thing it already knows will give relief, even if that relief is short-lived. This is why we reach for a drink. And this is why, by the way, a drink plan can be your best tool, because you've thought about this in advance and you've decided in advance, so you know what to do. But just for the sake of this podcast, we're going to say that you haven't done the drink plan. So you're sitting there and you're feeling all confused. You don't know really what's going on. It doesn't feel great. So, we're just going to do what we always do. Now, here is how it plays out. You think something like, I kind of want a drink. You ask yourself why. Your brain says, I don't know. You believe it, and now you're stuck. Now, that one little thought, I don't know, is going to keep you spinning. I want you to think of one of those little toy tops. Remember the old things back in the old days? Wearing faster and faster. The more you avoid it, the more you let it get on, it just spins and spins and spins. And as long as you stay in that fog, you are not going to make progress. You are not going to plan your drinks. You're not going to evaluate what's going on. You are not going to learn. In fact, you aren't going to make, it's not only going to make progress, you're going to go backwards. You're going to strengthen the habit, because every time we're not doing something different, we're doing the same thing. And the same thing in this case is drinking, right? So you're just going to pour a drink, or you're going to tell yourself, I will figure it out tomorrow. I could do a whole podcast on that. In fact, I might. But for right now, we're talking about confusion. So let's look at how we break this loop, right? How do we break this confused loop when we're in it? We're thinking we want to drink, but we don't know why. You're going to start by challenging your brain, and you're going to get specific. You're going to get specific about the confusion. In fact, you're going to get as specific, as super specific as you can, because the more specific you get, the easier everything becomes. It's kind of like the fog lifts. If your brain says, I don't know, a great response can be to try, okay, but if I did know, what might the reason be? Now, I will be honest with you. I used to despair of that question, right? People would say, yeah, but if you did know. And I think, look, if I knew, I would know. It sounded like one of those annoying coaching cliches that only work on paper. But I have a different view now. And I promise you, it does work if you are willing to sit with it. This may take a little time. And by a little time, I mean only a few minutes. I'm not talking hours or days here. Because if you don't rush to distract yourself, if you can resist filling the silence with something that feels familiar, or an action that feels familiar, right? If you can sit in that silence, that's when things start to clear. It really is where clarity becomes. Because when I finally allowed myself to sit with that question, right? Again, not for hours, just for a few quiet moments, answers, possible answers, ideas started to appear. Were they perfect answers? Probably not. But there were little glimmers of truth, right? Maybe I was tired. Maybe that's what was going on. Maybe I wanted a drink to mark the end of the day. Not to celebrate, but just to mark the end of the day. Maybe I just wanted something to look forward to. Now, none of these were wrong, but at least I knew what I was dealing with, right? So here's what I recommend if this happens with you and you're thinking you want to drink but you don't know why. In that moment, I want you to create a distraction-free zone. Put your phone away, no music, no multitasking, right? Just sit down. If you can sit down in a quiet space, all the better. You don't even have to sit. Just stop, right? Just do nothing. Just stand there breathing. And then I want you to ask yourself, why do I want this drink right now? Now, if your brain says, I don't know, I want you to respond with, okay, that's fine, but I want you to give me 3 possible reasons. And then I want you to stay quiet again. You can say these things out loud, or you can, say these things in your head. And really, I just want you to stand there or sit there in the silence. I don't want you to fill it. I don't want you to scroll. I don't want you to do anything. I just want you to wait. Now, your brain is going to hate the silence. It's going to want to start to fill it with ideas because our brains love answering questions. They really, really do. And this is the moment, if you can sit with that discomfort, that silence, that confusion, where you can go from fog to focus. Because it doesn't matter if the reasons that come up or if the ideas or thoughts that come up are messy or uncertain. Remember, you're not trying to be right. We're not trying to be perfect here. We're just trying to stop the spin. In fact, we're not trying. What we're doing is we're stopping the spin. Notice how I corrected myself there. We don't want to try, we want to do. So what we're doing is we're stopping the spin. Because the act of asking yourself a question and waiting for the answer is going to slow everything down. Think about it. It's just going to slow it down. It's going to bring your thinking back online. Now, as we're talking about this is absolutely where a coach can help, especially someone like me who's trod the path you're on, right? I've gone through that wood of confusion. Why am I drinking so much when I don't want to? And I've walked myself out the other way. I can make that path for you, right? And this is also in the moment coaching where this can help, because when I'm with a client and they say, I don't know, I'll often ask, well, I will do this, right? I'll say, give me 3 reasons. Just have a guess why you might want to drink. And then after that, I will stay silent. And here's the beautiful part. They will start to talk. Most clients do not hang up the Zoom. They don't run away. All right. So they don't stay confused, right? They start piecing it together out loud, even if what they're saying doesn't make sense to them at the time, because the silence is the thing that gives them space to think. And it's not a form of pressure. We do this from curiosity, right? And it's curiosity that untangles confusion. I've told you that so many times on this podcast, right? And the space, the silence can untangle that confusion. You can do this for yourself too. You do not need to fix everything. You just need to stay long enough with the question for your brain to offer something up. One more thing I want to touch on here. When you're confused, your brain is craving certainty, right? It's wanting an answer. It's wanting a quick answer. And this is why alcohol often feels like the one, right? Because the wine is there. It's open. It's in the fridge. It's predictable. It's fast. It's familiar. But certainty and clarity are not the same thing. Certainty feels safe because it's easy. Clarity feels powerful because it's true. And to get to clarity, you have to be willing to walk through that short period of confusion without numbing it. Every time, this is the upside, by the way, every time you sit with confusion, instead of escaping it, you are going to build self-trust, right? You're going to be reminding yourself, I'm capable of figuring this out. In fact, if you want a power thought, take that one, try that one for size. I'm capable of figuring this out. Even if the answer that you come up with, right, when you seek clarity is I'm lonely or I'm stressed or I'm just used to drinking at this time, we have an answer. We have something solid we can start to work from, which is more solid than I don't know. And this is where growth happens, because now you're working with real data. You're working with or a real feeling or a real sense from yourself that this is what's happening. You're not just, swooping around in the fog, not taking action, or sitting still in the fog saying, I don't know what to do. So the next time your brain says, I don't know, try this. Just say, I don't know yet. All right. That one small word, yet, keeps the door open for discovery. So I want to remind you, confusion is not the enemy. It is simply a signal that your brain is learning something new. It means you're in new territory. And your old habits don't automatically apply. That's another way of looking at this. If you're aware of this and you're asking this, think about that. It means you're not defaulting to the automatic drink, or you'd be halfway through your second glass by now, right? That's the upside here. So instead of distracting yourself and wanting to get rid of this confusion, Invite the confusion in, ask questions, wait for answers. Trust that you are capable of figuring it out because you are. You know you are. I know you are. You do not need to be perfect either. You just need to be present. You just need to be willing to give this a shot. Because the moment you stop believing I don't know, you will start discovering what you actually do know. It just might take a little more effort to start with to get to it. And this, my friend, is where your real freedom begins. If this resonated with you, if you've been caught in that I don't know why I keep drinking loop, this is exactly the kind of work I help my clients do inside my one-on-one private coaching program. You're going to learn to stop spinning in confusion. I'm going to introduce you to your particular flavor of confusion. It comes in all different shapes and sizes. I'm going to help you to trust yourself again. Self-trust. This whole journey begins in self-trust. And when you trust yourself to take action, to ask the questions and keep moving forward, that, my friend, is how you make alcohol irrelevant in your life. You know you want that. I know you want that. If you're listening thinking, oh, but I'm scared, that's okay. You can still be scared and take action. But I know you're ready for this. I know you want it. I know you want the life where alcohol is not calling the shots. So the next thing I want you to do is to book a discovery call with me. It is free. It is no strings attached. We will talk about where you are, where you want to be. And I will stop all confusion by building on that call the exact path to walk you to your desired future goal. It is so good and it is such fun. You will learn so much about yourself. So I want you to go to 90dayslater.co and click on the book a call, and you'll get time on my calendar and we will find out exactly what's going on with you. I will also drop the link to the discovery call in the show notes, and I will see you next week. If this episode hit home and you're ready to explore what life could look like with alcohol in the back seat, let's talk. I work with people one-on-one who are ready to create the relationship with alcohol that works for them, so they feel powerful in their choices and at peace with their habits. Go to 90dayslater.co and click on book a call, or grab one of the free guides in the show notes to this episode. And if this podcast is helping you, a rating or review goes a long way to help others find this work too.